Hi, it's Miss Pasolka again, this time talking about more specific writing strategies for your personal essay. Now, the number one thing that will set your essay apart is specific details. Even if you have a topic that's very similar to other students' topics, specific details and specific thoughts can really make your essay much more interesting and much more particular to you. So don't tell me that you grew up in poverty. Tell me that when you were a child, you used to help your father at his job cleaning buses at night, and that you used to watch him pick up the coins from the buses and save those to pay your soccer fees. Don't tell me that the farm that you grew up on was dictated by the schedule of the animals. Tell me that the last 3 Christmases you spent in the barn helping with the birth of a calf. And this works not only for concrete details, but also specific thoughts. So, for example, if your relationship with your family changed dramatically when they found out about your addiction, tell me that the very worst thing for you was losing your innocence in your parents' eyes. Now, in most essays, using specific details doesn't usually mean full-out anecdotes or narratives, but just specific phrases, maybe one sentence. You want to think of your essay as kind of a river or a stream, and the details should be small rocks that your essay flows over, and they give it just enough friction to make it burble and ripple and come alive. Generally, you don't want to plop a huge anecdote right in the middle of the flow, because then the essay slows down and then has to divert around the anecdote. But concrete details in general are so crucial, especially if you feel like your essay is starting to sound basic. Before you switch your topic, just go back and see if you can flag some generalizations and swap those out for specific details and ideas that make it more interesting and more particular to you. The next tip I have is just put the time in. Make sure you're putting enough time in. Everybody's writing process is different, but I would say the average time spent on a good personal essay for the students that I've seen is probably 10 to 20 hours. And probably some of my students would laugh at this because they know they spent much more time on their personal statement. So make sure you're just putting in the sheer quantity of time. Number 3, I took this advice from another writer, and I can't remember who it was. It's pretty common advice, but it goes something like, write your first draft just for yourself and your second draft for your audience. It's really easy on a personal essay to kind of get caught up in your own stuff. So you need to make sure that you're also looking at the essay from your audience's perspective. For example, you don't want to talk about not getting the part in the school play as if it is the absolute worst tragedy that could ever befall anyone in the world. Because obviously your audience has probably experienced things much more tragic than that. You don't want to make statements like, I'm going to interrupt the energy sector, or I'm going to make sure everyone in America has health care. Yes, it's great to have aspirations, but in the process, you don't want to sound naive or arrogant by kind of discounting all the tens of thousands of people who've spent their careers working in the fields that you're hoping to go into. Number 4, show your essay to somebody, ideally a few people. Now, unfortunately, that means that you will probably get conflicting advice. So you're going to have to sort through that advice and make your own decisions. One thing you should look at is the person's expertise. Now, not to toot my own horn, but I work with probably 250 seniors a year on their college essays. I read thousands of essays a year, tens of thousands of drafts. So not to be harsh, but my advice is going to outrank your friend who's been trolling college essay websites. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, if you are lucky enough to get advice from an admissions officer at the college you're applying to, obviously their advice trumps mine. And maybe some of the people you show your essay to aren't experts in writing, but they're experts in your life, or what makes you tick, or whether the essay sounds like you, which is also very important. Now, the most important question you can ask when trying to sort out advice is why. You should dump your boyfriend. Why? Because he's cheated on you with 6 other girls. See, it makes things much, much clearer. So when somebody gives you advice on your essay that doesn't immediately resonate, always ask why. And as you listen to the answer, it will become very clear whether that advice is generic or particular to your essay. And hopefully it will either resonate with you, or you'll say, well, that's not really what I was trying to accomplish, and just reject the advice. What you don't want to do is try to write your essay by committee. Don't try to please your mom and me and your English teacher and your best friend. Yes, listen to what everybody has to say, but then you just need to go with your gut and send in the essay that you feel best represents you. And that's scary sometimes, but it's your essay. You're the one who has to be happy with it. Number 5, read your essay out loud to yourself. Now, many people, myself included sometimes, actually find it easier, especially on first drafts, to just compose out loud by dictating to your phone or dictating to your computer. It's one of the crucial things that will help you stay true to your voice, which is really important in the personal essay. It's also very good for proofreading. Most people catch far more mistakes if you make the mistake, take an extra trip through your ear. And research says that it works even better if you read your essay out loud to an audience, even if that audience is your dog, believe it or not, because it just makes you more conscious of your words. Last thing, know when to stop. So we've all had the experience as children of working with those watercolor paints, and you're working on a picture, and you're working, and you're working, and you keep working, and you keep working, and before you know it, everything turns that lovely shade of green-brown. The same thing can happen to your essay, so try not to edit the life out of it. Now, next up, your secret weapon for writing.